Well, hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite written Ralph talking to you straight from our show here, Apple Bites. Well, we take a bite out of the apple and share it with you. And Tony and I are coming straight out of New York Comic Con.
He's waiting this year. He's coming straight from your Comic Con. I only went Thursday, so
You still win, bro.
yeah.
So let me ask you something, because there was a bunch of weird stuff that happened during the con. How did you feel Thursday?
I was fine.
Did you feel like it was normal? Because Thursday felt different.
I was fine. I don't know. I was fine. I like going one day because I didn't have to worry about like how late I stayed. I didn't have to worry about the next day to hang out. My friend hung out for a little bit afterwards. I didn't have to worry about the next day. It was fine. And it was Thursday. I could pretty much walk everywhere and do everything I wanted. So it was I was fine. So
because I think one of the consensuses about the fact about Thursday is that it felt like a Saturday.
There was a lot of people.
There we go.
Yeah, there was a lot of people. Yeah, but it was manageable still.
It was completely.
Because I know Saturdays, it's just not manageable. There's no floor.
Here's the crazy thing.
Go anywhere and do anything.
Saturday was not like Saturday.
Oh, really?
Nope. Sunday felt like Saturday. Because people actually brought their families on Sunday. They call it family day, but usually nobody brings their family.
Yeah, they have a lot of things for kids, and then there's no kids there.
Exactly.
So are you guys all Americans? Everybody? Am I the only Canadian here?
I
think so. Maybe.
Yeah.
Because you guys got all the cool cons, I feel. Like we got some. Like Fan Expo Toronto is like the biggest one we got, but it's a mix of everything. It's not just comics.
I think Canada has like three good ones, because there's three of them that are buzzing in my head right now. And it's because there's three of them that I've gone, okay, maybe we should go check this out.
I think there's a big one in Vancouver, but that's not driving distance really. So, because I'm close to Toronto, so it's quite a distance away.
Yeah. You have Udon Comics over there. Imagine. I don't know. They go to the shows over there. They come here, so I know they're in Canada. So I imagine
they probably go to the shows. I'm always curious about how like indie comics do. Like, how did any of the indie comic guys do at New York Comic Con? Did you ask them? Did you ask tables?
Actually, there's a thing that happens. Sometimes they don't do so well, but this year, a lot of them were saying that they did really well.
Yeah, it's the same thing at Fan Expo in Toronto. I was talking to all of them. They were like, "This is a great year."
Yeah, so I'm guessing it's something with the year, because I know last year a lot of them were like, but this year it felt different. The con, the people that were there felt different, meaning that it's not your usual geekdom. It felt more mixed and more general.
I mean, the setup for artists was more or less the same as last year, because you had your artist alley separate, and then you had artists mixed in with exhibitors. It was the same thing last year, so I don't.
Yeah, all the cons here seem like they're turning into knick-knack cons, where it's just like a bunch of kids come in with like $10 to $20 in their pocket, and they leave with like a bookmark with a cat on it, or a pin of a cute ghost or something.
Yeah, or like pop vinyl cons.
Yeah, like that's what it's turning into.
Mountains of pop vinyls.
Exactly, and that's what's going on with a lot of the cons, is that I feel like people are going because it's an event they want to go to, and then they go in and they don't have any money to buy anything. So you're sitting there going, okay, so because they'll pay the money to get in, and then they're in there, they're not buying anything, and I'm like, okay. In all fairness, though, especially with New York Comic Con, dude, the tickets prices for New York Comic Con are ridiculous, especially if you're bringing your whole family.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's $70 a day, and if you want them to send it to you, it's like it comes out to like $100 for like that just that one day. You want to send it to you, but if you
do like a pass,
pick it up, it's free. I'm sorry.
Did they do like a pass? Like, what is it? 3 days, 4 days?
4 days.
You get a 4-day or single days. I think those are your options.
But then it's just like $70 times 4. There's not really much of a discount.
You save like $30. So,
yeah, but like it's like suddenly becomes $340.
Right. Yeah.
Because I always get the 4-day pass here for Fan Expo, but I never done the math. So
they want you to think you're getting a deal. So they'll go, dude, let's if they, I think they'll realize if they buy it every day, it's going to cost this much. Take $20 off.
Yeah. Well,
But
they
then they hit you with like
Expo.
the VIP pass.
Yeah.
So it's like you get the 4-day, then for another like $180, you don't have to stand in autograph lines.
Exactly.
And then for another $400, you get the special photo ops or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some days where I wanted to go, some years where I wanted to go all 4 days. Like I would buy the Friday, Saturday first, and then not worry about it because that Thursday and Sunday, those never sell out. But
yeah,
maybe this just I don't know. I think Sunday sold out this week, like right before.
Yeah, right before. But it took them until this week to sell out.
Yeah, and Thursday took a while too. Yeah, but yeah.
Thursday, I don't know if it sold out because people were still coming in.
Okay.
And they were still buying. So I don't know. But Thursday's always the day to go. If you guys ever come to New York Comic Con, come on a Thursday. Okay. Because Thursday is relaxing. It's you can actually take your time. Yeah. You're not being rushed. Nobody's pushing you.
If I drive all the way over there to go to a con, I'm going every day.
There you go. You better.
Yeah. For me, it's just a boat ride over there. So it's not a big job.
Let's see. Hi, everyone. Xavier wants to say hi.
Oh, this is that's my wife, and Xavier's my son. Hey, Xavier. Hey, buddy.
All right, folks. Let's get this thing started. I guess we'll go we'll go that way. Catherine and Devin, why don't you tell the people what you give them the spiel. Go for it.
Sure.
Start us off.
Yeah, well, we're board game creators working on our first board game, trying to self-publish. So our game is called Estate Raise the Realm. It's currently live on Kickstarter. And it's a medieval fantasy worker placement style game where you're taking on the role of a noble leader and you're working to rebuild your estate over the course of 5 eras of time. We've designed this to be a little bit of a gateway to medium weight Euro style games. So those like games that typically take 2 to 3 hours. Our game is 20 minutes per player, so we think that's a little unique. And it's also been designed to have a ton of replayability. So each leader has their own asymmetric player mat, and there's over 50 unique cards in the game. So every time you play the game, it's always going to be a little bit different. And I'm sure I missed something, so Devin, feel free to add anything else.
Some of the game board actions change. Catherine mentioned the player mats are unique, where they each have an asymmetric tableau as well as a special starting build and a special ability. So lots of different variability and variance happening across the games. And we just funded today, actually, which was
a big
awesome.
Milestone.
Super thankful to all the backers if they're watching. And just as a comment on Kickstarter, I was sharing this earlier before we got started. We had 20 people give us $1. And if we didn't have those 20 people, we would not be past our goal right now. So it does, like, every dollar really does matter. So thank you.
It's funny that you say that because we tell people all the time, like, because some people go, I don't have the money. I don't have, I'm like, dude, sometimes you do $1. It kind of helps out because there's a bunch of things going on a Kickstarter. They're looking at a bunch of different things. One of the things that they're looking at is the count on how many people are supporting the project. Right. And if you do $1, that actually helps that count go up.
And I think we backed, half a dozen. I usually try to do like 1 to 2 a year. And we started on Kickstarter a couple years ago. I always try to back it to like get something. And I never considered that. And I was like, wow, like the dollar does matter here. I'm going to start giving other people dollars now. You got to pay it forward now.
Yeah. It helps the algorithm too, the more people.
Definitely.
For sure.
I was just checking out your page, and it looks like my buddy Joe backed your project.
Awesome.
Because when it says, at the top, it tells you like who backed it. My buddy Joe's, but he's one of those 149 backers you got.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Joe.
Is he up in Toronto? Maybe.
No, he's not. He's an American. He's out there. Okay. Most of the guys I know, because I got a board game channel myself, right? Nice. So, And so most of the people I know are in the States that play board games, because like I'm friends with all the other channels and all the other guys who on Kickstarter all the time backing things. So that's why I wanted to check. I was like, somebody I know must have backed this.
Well, we do have a copy of the game in Canada right now, and we're trying to find someone else in Canada to send it to. So if you know anyone who wants to try it out, let us know.
Well, I can probably if you reach out to me, I know a lot of people here. I can't do it myself because I'm booked for the rest of the year pretty much, but I can definitely help you out. This Kickstarter of mine took up all my time. So
absolutely, totally understand that.
Ralph, look at you. You bring us onto the channel and we're making connections already.
See, that's the point. That's why I always say it's a conversation.
Yeah, reach out to Board Game Coffee and I can try to put you in touch with the right people.
Okay, awesome.
And I gotta say, we saw you at the tabletop, and this game looked amazing. I like what you have, and I like the fact that you're actually trying to boost it up with Kickstarter.
Yeah, Long Island Tabletop has been fantastic. It's been like probably our number one from a playtesting perspective. Like that's where I think one of our first copies of the game we brought, and definitely their tables are a little bit smaller than a lot of the other cons, so it forces you to get some creativity. Where our game board, our player mats used to be probably like 3 times the size that they are now, and then it was like, wait a minute, this doesn't fit on the half-size table that Long Island Tabletop gives you. So we really downsized, and that was like one of those weird creative inspiration moments for us.
And as you can see here, which is I was hoping to find it right away, because this is what caught my attention when I was walking through Long Island Tabletop, and I was like, "What's this?" Because I didn't expect to see a castle in the middle of this board game.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so the 3D Castle Tower is a pretty cool component, and it's used to store the deck underneath, as you can kind of see there in the image. We do have a pretty big deck, so it helps just keep that nice and tidy. And then my favorite part about it is it stores your extra workers. So you start off with 4 workers in the game, and you can expand up to 6 in your estate. So your little workers hang out on the top of the castle until you do the action to get them. And it's just a nice table presence. So big fan of the Castle Tower.
What's the castle made out of? Is it cardboard?
That's cardboard.
It is cardboard, yep. So like from a manufacturing perspective, it's like in the cardboard sheets, then you punch it out, and there's a couple pieces that kind of fit together.
Our designer surprised us. We're working with, is it Merit?
Yep, Merit.
They're fantastic, by the way. But they surprised us because they actually also did cutouts for each of the windows for the walls. So you can pop out all the windows of the wall and like see through into the cabins. It's cool.
Yeah.
And we're very happy.
And you guys are considering upgrading the castle, right?
Yes, it is a little difficult right now to put together. So we are going to make it a little bit taller, as well as reshape how some of like the carnations all fit together. So it'll be a little bit easier and should be less. Occasionally, it'll like you can knock it over if you're not careful. So we wanted it to be a little bit more sturdy.
I like the font that you use on some parts of it that it just is like a medieval scroll.
Yeah, that's all our designer Maia at Marriott, and she's been great with just like the branding and get that medieval vibe.
It does. It completely has it.
The other big thing we really like about it from a table presence are the player mats, because they are multi-layered. So you can kind of like fit the cubes in, fit the workers in, and they have a really good feel to them.
Yeah. If anyone's played Scythe, it's kind of similar to that, where like there's little divots for each cube.
It's always those board games with all the bits and pieces that you're like, ooh.
Which we have many surprise reveals. We do have a couple coming up that will be showing some new component enhancements that we are very excited about. Another one drops tomorrow.
Yep.
That's right. That's what you guys have been doing, right?
Yeah, so we decided actually to not do stretch goals specifically, but we still wanted to introduce things during the campaign. So these are all things we've already planned to include in the game, but we're dropping them as surprise reveals, about 2 per week, so Tuesdays and Fridays. And it's either an upgrade to something that's already in the game or more things in the game. So this past Friday, we unveiled a 7th leader. So a new addition to the game. You can play as the Spy Master. and more to come on other things that we're adding in.
What's the strategy behind that? Instead of having stretch goals to encourage, more funding, is it just to keep the engagement up?
Yeah. So these were things we knew we wanted to put in the game no matter what. And it's more just to kind of keep us having things to talk about during the campaign, and also kind of keep people interested in ooh, what's the next thing going to be?
Yeah. As creators, we can appreciate the need for having funding goals, but in the end, we kind of wanted all of these things to be in the game. So that was part of the reason why, we were going to release this anyway to have it into the game. I figured maybe we could have set some of it aside and turned it into an expansion, but we also don't want to do expansions. We're just doing one game, and actually our plan is to do a trilogy of games that are all set in this sort of world and universe. But no expansions. We kind of, all of our content that we might have put into expansion, we put into the base.
Yep. I like it.
I see you got a lot of reviews, some strategy guides. Pretty nice set of videos here.
Yeah. Frank and Dice, I think, is local to Long Island. So shout out to him. And
so is NVNG, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of folks from Long Island came out for us, which has been awesome.
Yeah, so here you can see the Spy Master.
Yeah, your table is just full of people out there. I think I wasn't able to talk to you guys till later in the day.
Yeah, at one point, these cons, you were saying how your voice gets lower and lower.
Yeah.
Mine will just disappear. I'll just be chatting, and then it's gone. I'd be like, just hold on a sec. I'll drink some water. Give me 5 minutes. You can revisit this.
Oh, so you guys have a lot of reveals coming up. Look at this.
Yeah.
So, folks, you're coming in on the beginning of this. They may have funded, but there's a lot of stuff that's about to happen.
Yeah.
We have a lot of content to drop over the next couple of weeks.
Yep, and do a shout out to retailers. So we do have a retail pledge. So if you're watching and you have a shop, we'd be happy to have you have Estate Raise the Realm in it. So please don't be shy reaching out.
One other thing that has surprised us as well about the campaign, so we partnered with a local nonprofit in the New York area. I think it's
Board Games for the Better.
Yeah, Board Games for the Better. And we've had 4 people donate games to them, which is awesome. Yeah. So anyone watching thinking about doing a Kickstarter for their game, might be a nonprofit to work with, and the community is supportive of that, which is awesome.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know, they basically donate games to communities or families in need, and I think they're based primarily in the Brooklyn, New York, Long Island area, and they were at Long Island Tabletop, which is how we actually ended up meeting them.
I gotta say, I always love when you guys put this is how it's gonna happen, because sometimes, especially with certain Kickstarters, you'll be waiting 3 years and you're like, huh, and then it shows up at your house and it's Christmas surprise.
Well, I am forever the optimist and had some very unrealistic timelines that are not depicted here. My partner, on the other hand.
Yeah, I'm the realist and did a lot of research, so wanted to be really transparent with everyone, what the current timeline is, and we'll also be transparent as we get through it, because we're first-time publishers and we know there's stuff we don't know about yet. So
just add a year to everything. Be safe.
I know. There's I want to say 2 to 3 month buffer built into this, but yeah, could be something completely out of our control too, with a canal, getting completely closed or something.
Yeah, that'd be scary.
Yeah, as long as you keep people in the loop. And,
yeah, that was important.
Yeah, and,
I found that's more important than hitting the deadline, is not ever losing communication.
Yeah, and always communicate through Kickstarter also, because I know some people, they'll communicate on YouTube, whatever, and people are like, hey, I don't know what's going on, and they'll say, no, well, I put it on YouTube. So always, even if you do that, always communicate right on Kickstarter. The email goes right to the people whenever there's an update.
Great call. Yeah. If you got a lot of previous Kickstarter board game backers, they'll be used to things being late anyway. So I don't even know when things show up. I just back it and forget about it.
I've done that.
It's like
You gotta
Kickstarter
fill out
culture now.
your address survey. That's what like our fulfillment partner was like. You got to make sure you get everyone's addresses.
Oh, people forget to do that all the time. And then they go, I don't know why I don't have my stuff. I'm like, did you fill out the survey? No.
I'm pretty sure there's games I've never gotten delivered. I gotta go through Kickstarter and go through all my backing. Did I get this? Like what is it? Blackest Dungeon, Darkest Dungeon. I like that was a Kickstarter. I don't know if that ever arrived for me. I'm not sure I ever got that. So gotta check that out.
I had one.
Really interesting.
I had one I donated 3 years ago. They just got an email. Oh, we shipped it. It's coming. I still don't have it, but at least I got the email. It's coming. So
It's just on the postal bike route.
yeah. This shit. It's been 3 years. All right. Okay.
It's coming eventually. Come on. I also like the fact that you're showing off these little prices here, because sometimes you get surprised by these.
Yeah.
You did most of the quoting for that, but it was also like,
It's expensive to ship stuff right now. So these are the rates right now. We're hoping maybe stuff will settle down, but I think across the board, it's just gotten pretty expensive.
you had to quote things multiple times too, because when you did one of the first rounds of quotes, I forget what week that was, but there was just like something crazy
I
happening
think
with
there's
shipping.
a strike.
Oh, there's the port strikes. Oh,
Oh man.
that created disaster for quotes.
I'm assuming that CA is Canada.
Yes.
That's actually that seems pretty good actually. Shipping in Canada or to Canada is brutal.
Yeah.
It's more or just as expensive for me to ship in Canada. Actually, it's more expensive for me to ship in Canada than it is to the States.
Wow.
Wow.
So like I charge
Oh, go ahead.
like sorry, for my books, like I charge $12 Canadian to ship anywhere in the States, $10 Canadian to ship anywhere in Canada, although that goes over more often in Canada than it does in the States. So it's like shipping within my city costs almost $10. So, but I could ship to like LA for 12. So it's crazy.
Damn. That don't make no sense.
Canada's postal system sucks.
I will say, I mean, shipping from Australia to most of our backers were in North America. We thought it was going to be a lot more expensive. In the end, it wasn't as bad as we thought. That was around that $20 US per each one. But we did find just sending bulk boxes and then, distributing from there made it heaps easier. I think we sent a bunch to Canada as well. And I think it was a little bit more expensive than sending it to the US, which was strange, but
not if you live here, then you should expect it. It's that's why when you see a number like $19, like wow, you got that under 60. Good job.
That's funny.
Oh man. You gotta love it, folks. But it's one of those things that, especially with Kickstarters, you just have to deal with. Kickstarters is a good way to do things, but I feel like they're always trying to mess you up. It's like, it's Kickstarter. Did we tell you, by the way, you need to pay us this much money? And then
Yeah. All these various percents that just suddenly disappear. You're like,
exactly.
Oh,
People
no.
think that you get all that money. Oh wow, that's a lot of money you got.
So is this your first Kickstarter?
This is our first Kickstarter, yeah.
oh, wow, well done.
Exciting, right?
Yeah. Well put together.
It is a nice. It'll probably be a little bit of a lost leader for us, but we got some more campaigns coming. We'll see. Keep building the audience. Takes time.
Sometimes it's what you got to do. You got to build the audience, and then especially with Kickstarter, folks. That's one of the big things about Kickstarter is that you're expected to already have an audience. People think that Kickstarter gives you the audience. No, if Kickstarter, you do better if you already have an audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you spent a lot of time working on that.
Yeah, I mean, we actually were originally planning to launch in June, and then we, I would say a month out, like heard from a lot of other people, and also just like our own research of engaging with our current audience was like, we need a bigger audience for going. So we actually spent majority of the summer still tweaking the game, but primarily trying to build our audience. So like we went to Origins, and then we quickly realized like in-person events is great for getting like super fans and like, people love touching the game, but like marketing online is actually the best way to really get it broad. So we've spent about like 2 to 3 months doing some like Facebook meta ads and stuff just to try to continue expanding like the broader audience. So
I think we tripled our email audience by taking that extra time, and if we had not done that, we would not be where we are.
Yeah,
I think it's different. It's different for board games than it's comics, because how much you're making per unit versus how much a comic book is making per unit, it's easier to make up the difference. Because I like most of my experience is dealing with board games, right? Because I'm on the board game media end, so like I know what it costs to make our channel, and I know like what it costs. Like I talk to a lot of publishers and what it costs them to market, but and they make that money back pretty quick selling like you have 149 units, right? And you broke 13 grand, which is excellent. If I sold that many units in comics, that means I got the same reach. That'd probably be like break 6,000 maybe. Like I might get like I'd get half as much if that. So and that's because just the cost per unit. So it's like if I did a board game, I would definitely pay for advertising. I did some experiments for board games, and I don't think I'd ever really make that money. Do the experiments for comics. I don't think I'd ever make that money back. Like I'm not big enough that people click and they're like, I don't know who this writer is. I don't know who this comic book is. So like the clicks come in and then nobody sticks. When it's through paid advertising. I find myself I get more action when I do it just through joining certain groups and not necessarily indie comic groups. So
that's completely true there, because we've had a lot of people come on the show, and what usually ends up happening is they'll do one of those sponsors and they'll get a lot of clicks, a lot of likes, and no buys.
Do you see a lot of benefits for at scale for comics? Because something we see with the board games, like we're probably going to do the minimum manufacturing, which that obviously highest cost premium, right? But if we could get up and
like 10,000 units,
10,000 copies.
Woo, I think it takes like $3 or $4 off the manufacturing price. It's like massive.
Wow.
Good. Like
I've worked in manufacturing, and the scalability is that's where it's at. So you want to start, really getting. That's how you have these things. Like when we look at like Spirit Halloween. I worked in high end collectibles for a couple of years, and like Spirit Halloween will make something that's just like kind of spectacular for like $20, and you
that's how they get away with it.
This, and you're like, God, if I had to make this, but we're making like 350 of them, like our cost would be $85 a unit. Like how does this work? And it's like, yeah, well, because Spirit Halloween, Spencer's, all those, and they can afford to store it. They can afford to bring it out seasonally, so they can have 10,000 in their warehouses.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's one thing for comics. Like I can get like 2,000, 4,000 comics and still store them in my office, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but if I got like 4,000 board games, it's not going to fit in the same office. So like that I just have to give up a floor of my house, right, to be like, and that's where you live now. And I already have 700 board games of my own collection. So they're just like tucked in nooks and crannies everywhere. I literally have them stacked from floor to ceiling, like not on a shelf, just on top of each other, because I ran out of shelf. So
wow, impressive.
Yeah.
And you're right, board games take up a lot of space.
They do. Look at the size of this one. This is the one right here.
That's the board game in the background. What is that?
Oh my God! Look at
that.
That is a tank.
So like it's like 3 big boxes. Like
wow, all 3 of those boxes are part of the same game.
Yeah. Well, that's nothing. I got like some of the CMON games I have. If you stack the boxes from like Florida, it's gonna be like 4 or 5 feet. Like some of these boxes, right? Like there's so many.
Dude, I've seen these new games that there's like it shows up in a box like this big, and it's just one game. And you're like, how am I supposed to play this?
Just play.
Remember the size of the Fireball Island game from the 80s? Like that box that was just humongous. It was like a suitcase box. And the box is so much smaller now. I remember the box that I mean, I was also smaller back then, so it seemed much bigger. But I remember I was like, I could just like fit in this. Like I can go to Fireball Island. This game is huge.
That game in particular was when it came back. I was like, I need to get this because I always asked my mom for it, and she'd never bought it for me. So this was my opportunity to buy it for myself, and I was so excited. Still haven't played it. Like when did that Kickstarter end? Like 5 years ago. It's on a shelf back there. That black
No,
shelf.
no.
Actually, I think that might be it. Little box sticking at the top. That might be it. I'm not sure. So
Wait, you don't have to play it. It's a trophy. It's like you see mine.
Yep. I got it, and I just dug into it and started using it as like a play set. And so then all of a sudden, like half the parts are gone, and so then you have half a board game.
Yeah.
And I think eventually it just found its way into the recycling bin after after every single piece, just sort of is in like heating grates, tree houses, yards. It's all gone.
sad story.
Dude,
Very
that
sad.
reminds me of the aircraft carrier for G.I. Joe. A lot of people always ask,
Yeah.
why do you buy that? I'm like, because we couldn't get it when we were kids. So if I can get it now, I'm gonna get it.
We always wanted this Millennium Falcon. We never got it.
Oh, the big one.
Soon as my nephew was old enough, I got it for him. I was like, here, you have it. And they were like, how much did that cost? $300. Like, oh, you can't buy it $300. Like, I don't care, man. Somebody's gonna have it. And he was so scared to even break it. So my brother got to play with it. He said, here, you fly with it. He said, okay. So it worked out. We got, my brother got the Millennium Falcon. So. It's probably like 20 pieces by now, but
You gotta love geeks. You gotta love geeks. So Tyler, tell the people all the good stuff. Give them the spiel. Go for it.
Yeah. So my name is Tyler. I've been in creative for about 25 years now. I worked in feature films, feature animation, bit of time in comic books. Went on to the collectibles industry. Now I kind of spend most of my time doing advising and consulting. And I'm trying to push and launch my children's book writing career. And so I created a book series called Rest in Peace, which is a series of young children books, birth to about 8, which is about how monsters would all celebrate different holidays together. And so my first book, Rest in Peace, which you can see right there. So they all sold out. The first printing was distributed by Simon Schuster. What? Sorry?
That's it. It's just noticed. I'm like, oh shit, they sold out.
Yeah, and so the publisher doesn't do hardbacks, and I always wanted hardbacks because I felt like it was getting a little bit of a disservice being a softback because a lot of parents. I mean, I have young kids. Even though they cost more, I would never buy softback books for my kids because they just get just destroyed. And so we came to an agreement where I could self-publish the hardback copies of my books. And so we came to this agreement a little too late for Halloween. So Rest in Peace itself doesn't have a hardback version. But the next book, which is called The Yule Ghoul, which is where the ghoul throws a Christmas party. So that we got into hardback. And then the third book, which is hasn't seen any publication yet, it's going to be it's Ghoul in Love, which is how a ghoul would navigate the tricky emotion of love at Valentine's Day. So both of these are ready in hardback now, just up for order, and we'll probably have Rest in Peace available by next Halloween.
Dude, it's good to see that they all like physical books because the last couple of times you were here, some of them weren't physical books yet.
Yeah, it's been the publishing journey is a crazy one.
It is.
Yeah, there was the first year that these were supposed to come out, a hurricane wiped out the printing place. So there's a paper shortage in China. They moved the printing domestically, and then a hurricane wiped them out down in Florida. And this was probably 2022. So the Halloween book just never happened. And after delays, the Christmas book came out in January, which is probably the worst time to have a Christmas book come out, right after Christmas. Yeah, and then last year we started kind of working through that.
I remember that there was a YouTube.
And so now
2022, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was like a real thing, and it sounds crazy, like a paper shortage.
Yeah,
but it was a thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm doing the hardbacks through Ingram, and so now they'll just be perpetually available too, because they kind of get through publishers. When you have holiday books, they kind of push them, then they kind of make them go dormant. This way, they're just perpetually going to be available to whoever would want them.
That's what you want. You want to be able to just pull them up whenever you need to pull them up.
Yeah, exactly. It was there's times when I say go want to buy a copy, and you send them to Amazon, and it would just be it go back into pre-order as they were reordering copies from the printer. And as an author, I want people to be able to get something whenever they want it.
Yeah.
Not just around, and granted, I set myself up for this doing holiday themed books, but hopefully I have some non-holiday books that'll hopefully get going here that can just be more evergreen. But for now, we're all at a happy place with this.
You were saying you were going to make 4 issues of this, so I was wondering if you were still going that direction. But you also said that you were about to start doing something different, and you might put that 4th book on a back burner for a while.
Yeah, so I was going to do a 4th book, and for some reason, sometimes these books, I mean, granted, it's hard to complain about a book that's like 700 words long, but sometimes they really flow well, and sometimes they just bite. Every single word bites you.
Yeah.
And what I wanted this 4th book to be just isn't working. And so I decided to kind of, I don't know, like flex a little bit more creative muscle. And so I started writing. I have the first draft done. It's more of like a Goosebumps style book. Nice. And so it would be more evergreen, kind of a little bit older audience. I don't think I have the attention span to do like an 80,000 word novel, but like I can kind of punch around 20,000 words. And so that's where I'm at now. About 10,000 words into the first draft, and 20,000 should, easier said than done. 20,000 should come pretty easily.
So I tell writers all the time, you got to figure out what you want to write, how you're going to write. Can you write certain things? Because that's all important, because a lot of people start writing, and I don't think they realize that they can actually decide what they want to write.
Oh, I do the same thing, and in fact, so this year my daughter had a really cool like an English teacher who did a whole section on poetry and then a whole section on graphic novels as a medium, and because these books kind of skate on both of those, because I write, and they're both books are poems, and it's tangential to the graphic novel. I came in for both classes and kind of did guest teaching days. And that comes up, when you're talking to 11-year-olds who are in an English class and you open up for questions, they always kind of ask, well, what should I write? Because as a kid, you're so focused on writing what you think your teacher and your parents want you to write. Like, we're going to write, what's the best grade I can get?
Yeah.
And that's what I kept telling these kids. And it was, I'd tell them, you're not writing for your parents or your teacher or your friends. You're writing for yourself. Don't write for the grade you're going to get. Write something from the heart. Because otherwise it just comes out insincere. It doesn't really work. You're forcing it. And even like I said, and I told them, Tim, like, look, I'm 47 years old. I write books about monsters celebrating holidays. Just because I think it's funny, and I like monsters and I like holidays. So hey, who cares? And it works. Like, that's not really a formula that you would be. You tell someone, how do I set myself up for success in the children's book market? Like rhyming, seasonal, monsters. So, but
I'm happy that you said that, because what starts to happen is, like, that's another question that they're supposed to answer. Why are you writing? Are you writing because you want to write? Are you writing because you want to make money? This is an important question, because it actually details the direction you're going to go with your writing. Because if you're writing to make money, then it's a whole other thing. If you're just writing to write your stuff,
I have no illusions of being able to retire off of any of these books. Like, the only person who's made any money on my books is my illustrator. Like I have made nothing. I just enjoy doing it. I have kind of like a larger kind of like meta storyline, like for myself with this. But it's not really going to be, I would love it if it turned into something big. Who wouldn't want to be, an R.L. Stein or someone like that, but for right now, it's very much just a labor of love.
If you're writing the things that you enjoy, a lot of things that you enjoy, other people enjoy as well. So it seems like a good process. I like monsters, I like holidays, it's so.
Not only
I think so. And like, for example, I set up, I started doing some sort of like social media video stuff. I never thought I would do it, but about a month and a half ago, I just started like, hey, I've worked in creative for 25 years. I get, because I do a lot of mentorship and a lot of, outreach, and I talk to younger creatives all the time. And I used to do like, I would do like one-on-one sessions, kind of just like a coach would. But when you start getting the same questions, it feels unfair to be charging people, a couple $100 an hour to give advice that you keep giving over and over again. So it's like, I'm just going to start. So I started like a YouTube channel, TikTok, kind of all the main like videos where I just do 1 minute little increments of kind of more or less like the most, it's kind of like my frequently asked questions, just sort of advice to people who are, in the creative industry, trying to get in the creative industry, feel stuck in the creative industry. And I've been kind of shocked, like to your point, where it's just like stuff I thought was interesting. I put no marketing, no promotion into it, but I'm getting hundreds of views per video, which isn't a lot for a big creator, but for someone who has just started with no followings there, like I had one video that actually took off and got like 19,000 views, and it's just me rambling about canceled toy lines I've worked on. So there is a lot to that. Just kind of do what speaks to you, and you'll find people who it also speaks to.
What's your channel?
It's all. I was shocked. So my full name's Tyler Ham, and I was like, oh, it'll be easy getting that. Like, how many Tyler Hams can there be? And there's a lot of Tyler Hams. So all of my socials are Tyler J Ham, except for my main site is tylerham.com. But Tyler J Ham is like my YouTube, TikTok, my Substack, which I just kind of do creative writing stuff on, Instagram, all those. There's an actor named Tyler Ham Pong that I keep meaning to reach out to, because every time I Google, he comes up, and I'm like, God, like I wonder if he is thinking the same thing. Like, who is the other Tyler Ham that keeps showing up? So one day I'm gonna reach out to him.
It's funny though, because on the socials you usually pop up right away as soon as I plug your name in. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah, there's some streamers and stuff. Like I didn't realize, like there's a hockey player.
There's a hockey player.
You just got another sub.
Well, thank you.
I just subbed. You'll see Board Game Coffee
so
subbing. That's my account.
I'll get right back to you. Also, I appreciate it.
Awesome, thanks.
Devin, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's got such like a cozy monster vibe too, which I love from an illustrated perspective. It's awesome. Looks really cool.
You. That's what I liked as a kid. Like I liked I actually just bought a VHS copy of it because I just always loved it. Like the Disney Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
There's kind of, I love that spooky, not scary vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, like this actually kind of leans a little bit into scary.
It does.
But like I like that because I'm like a diehard horror guy. Like I love horror, but when I'm writing, I kind of enjoy that comfort horror that I liked as a kid. Because I was kind of like a fearful child. I don't know. I was scared of everything as a kid, but I loved Halloween. Like I loved the cardboard decorations on the walls and things like that, and that's kind of the feel I wanted my books to have, like a safe place to be a little scared.
And that's the feel they do have, because if it feels like those ones we grew up with, the ones they would put on the CBS special, whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, I like this,
Yeah.
You remember very with a lot of savor.
Mm-hmm. Well, like my kind of older grade book I'm writing right now, I kind of wanted to have that like Peninsula vibe, like that level where it is like a little bit more intense, but also not scary. And then I'm kind of playing around with because I've been writing a lot of true horror stuff actually. That's been getting picked up by podcasts and things like that.
Interesting.
And I enjoy writing that, but that's like a kind of a different genre. Whereas, like I said, I prefer that more, I don't know, safe zone. Because terror is it's fun to be scared. But when you're writing towards kids and younger people, you still want them to feel safe with it.
Yeah. You want to have that safe scared. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Philip. Tell the people what you do, who you are. Give them the spiel. Go for it.
Well, my name's Philip Denson. I'm over here in Australia, so a little bit further than Canada. But I lived over in LA for a little bit. I'm a screenwriter. That's my bread and butter. I write in TV over here. I sold a TV show over there at one stage, but feature film over in the US, have a feature film with Ridley Scott's company, Scott Free, and a few other things bubbling away. But during last year, there was a writer's strike, and I have been collecting comics since I was a wee lad. And had this idea in the back of my head for many, many years, which is called Future Tales. and I knew I couldn't really get it up in the film and TV world necessarily straight away. Everything's based on IP now. And what it is a reimagining of classic fairy tales, but set in a cyberpunk post-apocalyptic world. So similar to what Tyler was talking about, just something that I wanted to see, that I just have loved, this aesthetic, plus also these characters. They're huge IP, really. It's intellectual property that's in the public domain, fairy tales. So this character, as you can see on the screen, is our version of Little Red Riding Hood. Not so little, but still got red hair. That's what we like. You can kind of see actually on her there, on the side of her head, she's got a cybernetic enhancement called a hood, which stands for Holographic Object Ordnance Device. So she can sneak on the surface there and try to stay away from the wolf soldiers, which is the World Order Liberation Force. The tricky thing about this, and the fun thing about this, was every chapter is its own fairy tale set in this same world, but every chapter actually informs the next one, and the characters show up in each one. They interweave, all leading together to a final chapter where all these characters, the Goldilocks character, the Jack and the Beanstalk character, Red, they all come together to fight the big bad wolf, to fight for their happily ever after. So it was one of those stories that I've really loved developing, and we got to do a Kickstarter last year that was really successful. We made about $13,500. First Kickstarter too, so we really didn't know what we were doing. We used it a little bit as a way to reach our audience, as we were talking about earlier. It's maybe not the best way to do it. However, for us, it did work to some extent. I had some people who knew me or knew of my work who came along to back, but I'm one of those people who go on a Kickstarter regularly and just scroll, and that's my storefront now. That's where I get all my indie comics. So yeah, it was one of those ones we just put it out there, see how it went, and now we're on Amazon. So yeah, go and check it out. And in fact, I don't know if you can see here, but because we did well, we got to do one of those gold leaf shiny covers, which I think looked really great. That's the cover of it. My blur is playing up with me, but maybe I should hold it back. That's right.
There you go. You can see it right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of them have that. We have some variant covers too, and it was just a real fun thing to do and get out there.
I gotta say, you did a good job with it because we ran into it, and it came up in one of those, hey, look at this, sponsored. I'm like, okay, let's go down the rabbit hole. Let's share it. Let's show people what this is.
Well, if you come down the rabbit hole, there's a lot of rabbit food to eat because it's one of those ones. It's a graphic novel. It's standalone, so it's 106 pages, something like that. And even though the chapters are each like 10 to 12 pages, they're kind of short and sharp, but it all joins together to form one big story. Because that's one thing I like. I like ends. I mean, I love buying floppies and one issue at a time, but I also just like having a book that is a full story. And something like this, it is kind of international in the fact that we use artists from all over the world. So every chapter is a different artist as well. So this one that you can just see on the screen, that's a Peruvian artist, Antonio Diaz. He just did the intro, like this 3-page little a prologue. And then every chapter had a different artist who could bring not just their art style to the work, but also their culture. So we have like the chapter 2 is our Sleeping Beauty chapter. That was by a Nigerian artist. And he was able to make Sleeping Beauty a Nigerian character.
Nice.
And same with our Filipino kids in the Hansel and Gretel story, the twins, they get lost. And they're 2 Filipino kids. So, and that one's told more in a cartoon style because it's from a child's perspective. So we got to play with the medium a little bit. Every artist got to bring their own culture and style to it. So it was great working with all the different artists. Some of my artwork made it, but not as good as these artists. Like that cover is Raymond Augustin, a Filipino artist, amazing artist who just helped do a lot of things for us and just helped design some of the characters. So any artist could get onto it and you still know who the character is. So their design is consistent. But yeah, amazing to work with all these talented artists. Yeah, really excited. But check it out.
It looks great.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah, it looks spectacular. And I love the background to it. The future fairy tales.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well,
What a cool idea.
You know, if you like future.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No. It's your hour. Go.
I know as a kid, I remember thinking the forest that the Hansel and Gretel get lost in was the same forest that Little Red Riding Hood was in. And the big bad wolf for Little Red Riding Hood, in my mind, was the big bad wolf in the Three Little Pigs. Yeah. So in my mind, I already had this headcanon of a shared universe in this European type world. But, you know, fairy tales have been retold time and time again. Even before the Brothers Grimm, they were told thousands of different ways. And then since then, thousands of different ways. So it's not anything new to have a reimagined fairy tales. But what I liked about it, what I felt was unique, was the shared universe is that, Red shows up in the Goldilocks story and is important to what happens next. And what Goldilocks does is important to how the wolf soldiers find these underground cities, because the meta story or the underground story is that there's 3 underground cities of survivors who are hiding from the wolf soldiers above, who are in this floating city that's where Jack and the Beanstalk, he goes up to the floating city and gets the golden egg, and it's all kind of connected in one big story. And even just the visuals, I remember seeing a photo of a bombed out city, I think from World War II. And just the steel in these buildings almost look like trees with their branches coming out horizontal and just rubble. And I mean, I like that aesthetic anyway, but it felt like the woods in a fairy tale. So it wasn't too hard for it to just fall into place, and they all kind of clicked in. So there was definitely some fairy tales that didn't make the cut for this book, but who knows? Maybe there'll be another one.
I like the concept. I like the joint universe. If you're right, even as a kid, I did have it where they were all together.
Yeah, it just feels sort of natural. And our 8th chapter, the final chapter in this, is not based on any fairy tale. It's really just based. It's just to get them all together, Avengers style, team up, because hopefully defeat the big bad wolf. But no spoilers. I can't give that away.
If you like alternate fairy tales, there's actually a board game called Twisted Fables.
Yes,
and it's like and it's all like, I think like Sleeping Beauty is like some sort of psycho that she's like in a straitjacket, like she's in a mental institute, so she's strapped up, and then she's got psychic powers that you could unlock. I think Little Red Riding Hood's like part cyborg. There's Snow White. There's so many. There's like Little Mermaid if you get the expansions. There's so I did the how to play, so they sent me everything, so I have all of it. So it's pretty cool. It's a 2-player combat game where like one fairy tale character stands here, the other one stands here, and they just basically try to fight each other off the end or kill each other, or just like so. That's how it works. Anyways, the art for that is also great. And there's also Fables, another comic book which I read, so I'm a fan of it myself because I'm a fan of that idea where all these.
I couldn't do Fables. It was too adult for me. It was like Snow White and Cinderella were doing things I couldn't.
Fables was great because like Prince Charming was the same Prince Charming for all of them. That's sort of sweet. He's just like sleeping with all the princesses, which is great because he's like the charming jerk that they all despise because he's like.
I like that show. Once Upon a Time, I did like that. That was fun.
Once Upon a Time.
In the beginning, after a while, after a while, it wasn't as good, but it was good for a while.
That's what happens with shows.
Yeah, went a little too long,
I think Once Upon a Time was Disney wanted to get the rights for Fables, and Bill, the writer, wouldn't give it to them, so they made their own version of it. That's what I.
It seemed very fable-y.
I
always thought it was like I didn't mind the show, but I always looked at it as like it's like Fables, but not as good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Philip,
it was like Fables, but it wasn't like Fables, so it was like the kind of adult I could like deal with, put it that way.
You were saying, Catherine?
Oh yeah, I just was gonna ask you. I think it's amazing that you were able to partner with so many artists around the world. Can you tell us a little bit more, like how did you go about finding them and pulling together this like multifaceted group of people.
Good question.
that is, you're good at this. We started with because we just started locally. There's a group of us who got together, who are all either animators or filmmakers in some regard, but we've had a shared love of comics, and we would just get together every now and then and share what the comics we have and talk. And then we decided, hey, let's do our own little anthology where we all get 10 pages and we can do whatever we want in it. And that's when I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to do Future Tales. And I teamed up with a local artist. She's originally from Indonesia, Annika K. Putri, who helped design some of the characters as well. So we did that 10 pages. And then the whole concept for me was that every chapter tells that one fairy tale. So it was sort of baked in that I wanted to have different artists do different chapters. So the second one was pretty quickly. I had to find someone. I think it was on Upwork or Fiverr, one of those ones. My Nigerian artist. I just kind of looked out. I found some work, and I said, "Oh, great! Someone who's not from Australia. I can get you to do this artist, do this chapter." And then as that was happening, it started churning. I was like, oh, I better get on top of some of these other artists and put some word out on Facebook and on Reddit, I believe it was, and got inundated with artists.
Yeah.
So they came to me in the end, which was great. But I kind of got to pick and choose. I found Raymond, I think, also on Upwork, but he is insane. Like his art should be, Marvel and DC. He's so good. He does everything, the colors. He did the Red chapter. I think you saw some of Red before. He did the Goldilocks chapter, but he helped do some remake of the Red character. And I would say, and he did the cover. All of them, my whole premise was to make sure I had different artists from different continents. So we had South American, we had Brazilian. In fact, if you're on the Kickstarter campaign, if you keep scrolling down, one thing we did, I put a map on the Kickstarter campaign where it shows all the artists and where they're from.
Wow.
And a little hint that we did, so you can see Red there, that was Raymond's art. So one little hint I found it helped us was having artists all around the world. It's almost like having your own little marketing team because they'll all tell their friends and family. I mean, obviously I'm like, no, I'll send you free copies to give out because we just wanted the artists to feel loved and they all got paid well and things like that. But they ending up using their own social media to promote the work as well and just say, hey, look what I've been doing. So it wasn't as hard as it seems. There's artists out there and there's some amazing artists who are just untapped or just hidden away and they haven't got the connections that some people do. So I feel like if you're looking for great artists, they're everywhere.
Yeah. We used Instagram because we just kind of were finding art inspiration that we liked there. And then what was the other site? ArtStation.
Yeah, ArtStation.
Yeah.
But we want to collaborate with more artists and we're like, we need a more effective way of searching. And we've had some people reach out to us since launching. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I would look on ArtStation. It's funny, I'm maybe one of those weirdos who I would just go onto ArtStation and DeviantArt just when I have a little bit of downtime and just randomly look at art because I don't know why. For me, I was going to say porn, but it's like porn for me. That sounds terrible, but I just love to see people art or sci-fi art or just good comic book art. Like, I don't know what it is. I'll just, and some of those artists though are so amazing. I did reach out to some of them, but they're very expensive, very they want to do just one piece rather than sequential art, and that's great. But there are comic book artists out there, and you can see on the map here we've got Morocco, France, Philippines, Nigeria, Brazil, Peru. So it was just good. The fact that fairy tales are international and universal was all perfect for this to find these artists.
Because they kind of know the story already, so that it kind of helps you out.
Absolutely, yeah. I give them when I write a full script. And I also lay out most of my stuff myself. I sometimes give pencil work or reference images, but I'm always surprised at how the artist will have some better idea than I would never have thought of. And that collaboration process is really exciting. I mean, working in film and TV, it's all collaboration. No one reads
Yeah.
no audience reads my scripts. My scripts are for, producers and executives, and they all have to tick all these boxes for it to ever even maybe get made. And I'm lucky enough if I'm getting paid, even if it doesn't get made. But something like this, a comic that gets, straight, a script goes straight to an artist, and then I see the work, and then it goes straight to an audience. It's just great.
It's the love of it, man. And that's why we all do this. All right, Mark, your turn. Go for it. Give us a spiel.
All right. Well, my background is been working in the video game industry for 25 years.
Okay.
So most of that has been as an art director, creative director, and lead designer. So I've done everything but program and music. Music and programming I do not touch, but I've been like a game designer, background painter, animator, etc., etc.
Oh.
So I've even done some voice acting for a game or two. But anyways, so that's the majority of my career, and then after that I got into board game media, which is Board Game Coffee. That's my YouTube channel.
Right.
And then after that I decided to get into comics, and I wanted to try to do the comic book thing, because I guess my deal is when I get into something I like to get into it like all the way. So since I was like really into video games, I got into the video game industry. I was co-founder of my own video game company. Like I just went. It's still, I left it, but it's still going.
Right.
The company's going off on its own. And then, I wanted to get into once I got into board games, I got into it all the way, started a channel and started, like hanging out with the people I used to watch on YouTube, which was cool. Like I'm friends now with designers of games I played before I even knew them. Like I had no idea. It was neat. It's such a tight little community. Yeah. So I'm hoping to like reignite that same like magic, or like trigger that again and get into the comic books, because comic books are my first love. Like before like all that, I was like really into comic books. But I always thought if I got in, I'd get in as an artist, but sequential art isn't my thing. I spent a lot of time drawing pages when I was a teenager, but I was just like, wasn't doing it. Like I know, and as a guy who like spent most of his career like judging art, I could judge my own art and be like, it's not right. It's not the right thing. Right. So I was like, I'm not going to do it. So I'll try writing. So eventually got into writing, and I wrote So-Called Living, which is perfect. So yeah, it's on Kickstarter now. And then when I got into it, like I don't have a lot of friends, well, especially the friends I hang out with here where I live, none of them are really into comics or like into video games. Yes, because I work in the video game industry, but none of them are into comics. So I had nobody to talk to about this, and I didn't know who to talk to about getting into comics as as an indie creator. So I started trying to look for like different groups, and I met up with the guys at Lesser Known Comics. This comic book isn't through them, but I got to like I sit and I powwow with them, which is great, and I'm so happy they let me in the door. It was nice to have people to talk to. But basically I started as a writer just trying to figure out, how do I do a comic book? Like I had a script, and I was like, all right, now because I've written scripts for video games before, but I was like, so I wrote one for comic book, and I was like, how do I make this so an artist can look at it and make sense of it? It's like, okay, I formatted my script. I was like, okay, now I have a formatted script. And where do I get an artist? So I was like, well, tons of my friends, like most of my friends are artists, at least 50% of them. So the other 50% are programmers or musicians. So I was like, I'll ask them. So I did, and they were like, this is a great idea. Some hopped on, then they hopped off, because working all day creating artwork and then going home and then ignoring your family and then work all night on a comic book is difficult. So like they were like, I don't know if I can do this, man. I was like, you know what? No pressure. We're still friends. I get you can't do it. Like you could, but then you have to give up your life, and you're not. And this is not your love. This is not the thing you want to do. So I was like, okay, that's totally cool. So I put the book away for a while. Like I had that script written for like over 12 years, and then I brought it back up because I left. I stopped working in office in the video game once my son was born. And then I decided I quit that. Like I left the company I was working at, and I started just doing contract work as like a freelance creative director. So just kind of working with multiple video game companies. And while I was doing that, I was like, I'm just, now that I've quit my job, I've quit my full-time job, because when you best time to quit your job is when you have a newborn. Is that's the word. That's what I heard.
No, it is. It completely is.
That's what I was told. So like I decided something had to be done. So I quit. Started my comic book, and I'm so lucky that I have a wife that supports me, because I know there's a lot of people out there that be like, you're not quitting your job so you can write a little boy book. So but no, she totally supports me. She understands it's something I always wanted to do, and I know she's proud of the work that I've done. So that's a great feeling to have that backing. And but anyways, I had to learn everything. So from a guy that didn't know and finding an artist was tricky, because I heard so many horror stories about like, oh, artists will take your money and run away, and then they're gone. And I've heard stories the other way, where artists drew and they gave their artwork, and then the writer didn't pay them and just ghosted them. Like, I've heard horror stories on both ends. Now I didn't come across that, luckily. But I know it wouldn't be me. I'm very like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. So I wouldn't be the one scamming. But I found Marco Leone, who's the artist who does some of the panels you're looking at now. And he does all the interiors. He does all the standard covers. And he's getting more comfortable with the characters, which is great, because this is for books 3 and 4. And and this is what I said about like getting into it hard. My first Kickstarter that I ever ran myself was in March, and my second one is in October. So in 1 year, I decided to put out 4 comic books and 2 Kickstarters in 1 year.
Damn.
I was like, I'm just gonna go all out. I was like, I don't want to drag this on. I just want to just go. And plus, if I do 2 books at a time, that's half the amount of Kickstarter pages I have to design, and have to, because I want to do because the story is going to end after 8. I'll do more so-called living things after that, but this story is going to wrap up after 8 issues, so it'll be done sometime next year. And there's the covers for books 3 and 4, and 1 and 2. Like, there's a package here. If you miss 3 and 4, you can get 1, 2, 3, 4. I have variant covers. We have guest covers, and we have sexy covers, also by guest artists. And and this thing, like, we offer the typical digital. We don't offer the digital for books 1 and 2 here, because you can actually always read the digital for books 1 for free on Global Comics, and they also have the digital one there for sale. So if you want to check out So-Called Living, go to Global Comics. You can read issue 1, and it's free. You don't need a subscription or anything. You just read it. And I love the story. It's a dark comedy. I'll tell you something about it. So it's a dark comedy. Oh, here's the elite covers. So I call them the elite covers because I needed some title for these. So these are guest covers. And John Little did the yellow cover, and he was nominated for a Doug Wright Award, which I believe is just a Canadian. I don't know if it's just Canadian, but I've never been nominated for it, so I've never really looked into it. But it's like an character creation type of award, and it's like a big deal here. And he was nominated. He didn't win, but I've known John for a while, so I asked him if he could draw me a cover, and I gave him the idea because I drew basically a triangle with stick people falling out of it and pouring into a letter C, and I was like, imagine the boss drinking these guys, and he's like, I like that idea. The thing, I go with it. And he came back with this. Wow. And I was like, it's so John. It's like it's exactly what I expected, because he's got a very certain style for him. He did a book called The Salesman that did really well, and he's got a very certain style. And so when he delivered this, it was like, that's exactly what I wanted. Right?
I gotta say, I like how animated it is. It feels straight. It feels like straight animation.
Yeah. And like when he sent it to me, he sent it with my typical logo, the red one, which is on the standard covers, which is like, red says So-Called Living. It's a little more 3-dimensional. And he sent it to me, and I was like, I like your cover, but I don't think my logo works. So I recreated the logo, and I gave it this kind of like photocopied, like a worn out photocopy look. That's what I wanted. So, and I think that works with that cover. Okay. And then next to it is actually, I did that cover. And I wanted to do something a little different. I didn't want to. At first, I was like, I'm gonna do something super complicated, super detailed, and I was doing concepts. I was like, I can't think of what I want to do, and I just had to sit back. I was like, what do I actually want to do? And I always like trying different things. So I thought, we have the Blood Bunny colonists, which I'll explain what that is in a bit. But I was like, and those are people who supported the first Kickstarter. So I was like, I want to do kind of like a tribute to them. So I started drawing these little bunnies, and I was like, I'm just going to make this a two color cover at first. It was just going to be black and white. The logo was going to be white. The bunnies were going to be white on a black cover. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a 3-color treatment. I'll do the bright pink, the blue, and the black. And the white's the paper. So I was like, I want to do something stylized. So that was and this was it. So I wanted to pop, and my wife loves the bunnies. And at the very last minute, I drew that little one that's peeking out from the ears, and he's like the only bunny looking at the reader. And so I drew that, and she's like, I love that guy. So I was like, all right, great. So I was my own guest illustrator for this one. So that was the first time that's happened.
It's a great cover.
And if you notice that
you were doing an Easter cover like Tyler's, you're going to muscle in on his terrain.
Well, if you look at the edges of the Kickstarter, you know it's like a little bunny silhouette on the whole page, like going down. Like you notice it's a little bunny ears. So there is this bunny story. Thank you, Louis. So there's this bunny story that's happening in the background of my story, because the main story is basically, it's a different kind of vampire story that takes place in a world where the extraordinary is ordinary. Werewolves, vampires, zombies, they're all commonplace. So, and it's not an apocalypse. It's not an apocalyptic future. It's just like us. You could be sitting on next to a bus near a vampire and a werewolf, and you know they're a vampire and a werewolf. There's no skis. It's not scary. It's just like that's their race. Like we would have different races here. That's the equivalent there. And then let me explain these before you go buy them.
Okay.
So these are so there's a badge on these covers, and it says obligatory sex pot edition. Now, the reason for that is, upon my research, because I do a lot of research when I don't know what I'm doing, and since this is my first Kickstarter and was my first book, well, this is the second one.
Second one, yeah.
But I did the same thing the first one. I had these sexy covers, and I put the obligatory sex pot edition. And the reason I did that is because I was doing all this research, and I was like, wow, so many like the really successful books are all like they're either IPs or like or softcore porn. Exactly. And I was like, I was telling my wife this, and she's like, well, why don't you do like a sexy cover? I was like, there's nothing sexy about so-called living. There's nothing sexy about it. It's a dark comedy. So I was like, there's nothing sexy about it. But then I thought, but you know what does fit is the idea that I would come right out and say it's an obligatory sex pot edition. It's a cover that you need to have to be successful on Kickstarter. So I was like, that fits in with the humor of the world. And so in the beginning, the first two for books 1 and 2, they were like sexy versions of very plain Jane looking characters in the first book. So it was I always compared it to like cosplay. When you go to like a con and you see you see people dressed as like sexy Mario and sexy Luigi, and those aren't sexy characters. Like they can make anything sexy SpongeBob.
Spirit Halloween costumes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
have the sexy cop, the sexy firefighter.
Yeah, so like I was like, I'll do that. So I took their two characters and like sexified them up and put them on the cover. And for this one, it was 2 scenes. Like the first one, the zombie girl coming out of this pool full of zombies. There's a one panel in there with a pool full of zombies, and I thought, what if I use that kind of like push it even farther and have a sexy zombie girl coming out of the pool of zombies? And then the next one is actually it kind of complements the standard cover, because the standard cover for book 4 is a bunch of guys fighting, and they're just like they're on top of each other, they're all over the place. And I was like, well, if all the guys are fighting in this one scene on this cover, what are all the girls in that location doing? So I was like, let's make a cover where all the girls are fighting. So I got Larry Twasson, who's an excellent artist, and he illustrated both of these. And the thing is, his illustrations, they're actual like pencil to paper. Ooh, so like these are the originals.
Wow.
So like he's amazing. And the detail on them, he pencils and he inks them, and he uses a magnifying glass. The guy's insane. Like he's super talented. So I was happy I found him. Got him to do these two covers, and yeah. But I was sorry, I got lost from the story. the story. So yeah, it takes place, vampire, different kind of vampire story. World, monsters everywhere, and it's about a guy named Jack. He's a normie. That's what we are. And he gets turned into a vampire, and the first thing, then he's got to learn to adapt to this new way of living. Hence the title, so-called living. Uh-huh. So he and his first right away, his problems are minimal and they're silly. He's like the comic relief, right? Him and his buddies are the comedy. And the first problem is he can't get into his apartment complex because he can't get invited into his own apartment because he's a vampire. So he's homeless. So he's like, this is problem number one. He's a homeless vampire. So I was like, I can't even get in my own apartment. So so he ends up sleeping on the street. And then book 2, and there's a little bit of spoilers here, but there's a lot more to the story than just what I'm telling you. So I'm not concerned. And he like walks out into the sun and he catches on fire. That's something he's got to get used to because he's not used to waking up in the morning and avoiding the sun, because he was normal just a few hours ago. So he calls on his friends for help. His friends are idiots, but they try. And this I'll explain too, this bunny thing. But while he's dealing and trying to adapt to this new way of living, he gets the attention of the mob. And the mob, they're very interested in him. And they are not comedy people. They're very dark. They're very intense. And I compare it to, imagine the cast of Friends being hunted down by the cast of Sopranos. That's what we have here. And like when I write the mob scenes, they're not jokey. They're very intense. Mr. DeLuca, he's the head mob guy. He's very intense. They're very serious. And in book 4, you kind of see how they get it. How they handle a scuffle versus how Jack and his friends handle it. It's completely different. Again, one's like an episode of Friends and the other one's like an episode of Sopranos. They're in the same episode, but it gives you a very different vibe when you jump from one, like one certain, like the scene with the mob guys versus the scene with the comic relief. And in the middle of that, you got the vampires that started all this, which was Nick and Casper, and they're kind of like Sons of Anarchy. Imagine them. So imagine if Sons of Anarchy were vampires. And Nick is kind of like Butcher from The Boys. So that's how he talks. And so that's like the best way I can just sum up these characters. And I'm comparing them to like, Sons of Anarchy and The Butcher, even though those shows and characters didn't exist when I originally wrote this script. So, but that's the easiest thing to compare them to now. It gets people on board right away. So, but yeah. And you saw those bunnies. Oh, and there's a bunny story happening in the back line and in the background of this story, and the story with the mob and Jack will eventually collide with these bunnies. But in a world full of monsters, everybody's concerned more about the bunnies than anything else. But I'll let you read and figure out that on your own. The keychains that you passed, those like little bunny keychains, I offered those in the first Kickstarter, and the deal was if you buy a keychain, and these are all Canadian prices, mind you. So if you're shopping in the States, this is like, $8 is like 3 cents to you guys. So, because Canadian dollar sucks. That's why I put CAD underneath to make sure everyone knows. Yeah, those keychains right there that you're passing by. Those, those things. So if you flip them over, they look just like this, by the way, and we make these. So like I put together an Illustrator file based on my buddy Jamie's artwork of this bunny, and it's a good size. I should bring it down here. I've never had them here, but it's a good size keychain. And my wife cuts it upstairs on her laser machine, and it's a black and white acrylic. So it's a white acrylic. You laser into it, and black comes out. So we produce these in the house, literally in house. So if you get this, you get indoctrinated. I can't even speak. You become a member of the Blood Bunny Colony. And once you're a member of the Blood Bunny Colony, it's like it's a special membership. Your email's put on a list, and every time you back a so-called living book, you get a perk. So if any of the members back this Kickstarter, they'll either get a free upgrade from the standard edition to the elite edition, or from the elite edition to the obligatory sex pod edition. And if they don't want any upgrades, they can just get a free print and sticker set. That's not even available here. It's just, it'll be for them and for me when I'm at shows. I'll have it there. But so that's this. I wanted to kind of give back. So I offer it again. So anybody who gets this one will get a benefit on the next one. So once you have this, once you're a member, you'll always be getting a discount for every or a discount or something, some benefit. I've never guaranteed what the benefit is, but before it launches, I send an email saying this is what you're going to be getting. So
good idea.
It's the deal. And I've also played with the idea if I do anything beyond so-called living, which I have other stories in mind, but I don't know when I'll get to those. It's like I might apply that to those as well. So but yeah, that's so-called living. And the first two books were basically Jack's origin. And these two kind of lay down the groundwork for the bigger story. And this story will wrap up in 8 books. The 8th book, granted, might be a little thicker than the rest. I got to iron out that script a little bit, tighten it up. It's a little loosey goosey. And this is where these are the catch-up packages that I mentioned. So if you missed the first Kickstarter, you can get books 1, 2, 3, 4 in the standard or elite or sexpot, and you get a $5 discount than if you bought them originally. And so yeah, and the prices are crazy. Like it's if you got the all in, which is all 6, like the all in for books 3 and 4, which is all the covers, so it's like 6 books and all the digitals. Right. It's $80 Canadian, but it's like $59 American. It's a huge jump. Like I told you, our dollar's garbage. But yeah, so that's this.
Wow.
And, there you go. So that's the story. If anybody has any other questions about the story, because I kind of went everywhere on that. I'm a bit of a rambler.
Dude, I gotta say, it was rambling, but at the same time, everything made sense.
I'm like,
it's good kind of rambling, because at the end of it, you're like, I got something out of that.
It sounds so much fun. So.
Yeah, and you can feel that energy off of you, and you can tell you're having fun with it.
I really like the book. Like I'm not expecting everybody to like it, because nobody likes anything. Like Star Wars is amazingly popular. Not everybody likes Star Wars, so you just gotta get over it. People don't like your Star Wars. What are you gonna do, right? Like Pokemon's the biggest IP in the world, but not everybody likes Pokemon. But mind you, a lot of people do. So, and yeah, so it's been great. And my favorite feedback is going to a con, which I haven't done many of, and being able and having people return or send friends over and being like, yeah, my buddy bought your books. I've had 2 guys come to the table. One of them bought books 1 and 2, took off. And then an hour later, his buddy that was with him came back and was like, you know what? I'll buy books 1 and 2 of these covers, because he read his buddy's books. He's like, I really liked them and I want to buy them. So it says a lot that you've already read the story. You want to come back and buy them. I know personally myself, when my buddy lent me his copies of Walking Dead when it was new, before it exploded, I should have bought them, but I didn't. But like I read his, I never even thought of buying them. I bought trades later when I wanted to continue the story, but I was like, I know the story. He lent me the books. I read the story. I wasn't trying not to buy them. He was just like, hey, take these and read them. And I was like, I did. And after I did, I never thought, you know what? I should go buy those. I was like, wow, that's a great story. And that was it. So
that's how I got into comics. I was reading my older brother's comics, like when he wasn't looking. So, and then like he dropped the hobby, and I stayed with it. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And then so now I have all his old comics. So.
I got too many hobbies. Board games, comic books, and video games. There's just, so I got like a giant Steam library, giant board game library, and a stack of comic books that I will get to eventually.
You were the right crowd. We're all going to tell you those are good hobbies.
Oh yeah, I was about to say the same thing. I got a stack of comic books that I should have read ages ago, and they're just sitting there laughing at me right now.
Yeah, I see no problem with any of those.
Yeah. Don't grow up. Growing up sucks.
No.
Yeah, kids stay kids as long as you can.
I'm really interested to find out, because I have a 3-year-old. I'm really interested to find out what he's going to be into. Like I like the idea of Lego, but I've never bought them because I was like, I don't have the time to build them. But if he wants to get into, and they're expensive, and I was like, where am I going to put it? I have like statues and I have stuff everywhere. I don't know where
Don't open the door. Don't open the Lego door.
Where am I going to put?
But don't ever walk barefoot again if he gets it.
But if he's older and he wants to get into it, then I could see myself like being a project that we get into together, right? Like,
yeah,
then I can.
That is a good joint project.
Because like I said, he's into Pokemon now. I don't know where that came from. I didn't show it to him. He just came in. He just was it some kid at school, bro? I don't know what happened. But
there's a million episodes, man.
But I've never showed it to him. Like I don't know where they don't have TV in his daycare, so like he just knew. So I was like, okay. So we start watching some episodes, and he started getting into it. I started showing him Pokemon Go, and yesterday we were like walking around at the mall, and we were stopping on the floor. I was sitting on the floor with my son in the mall playing Pokemon Go, and he loved it. He's like, "Is there more?" And I was like, "No, we'll find them." I was like, "They're invisible. You need the phone to find them," because you turn on the AR, and he loved it. and then I bought Pokemon like Sword and Shield to play with him on the Switch. So yesterday I just played it in for the first time yesterday, and we sat there. We played for 2 hours. He's 3 years old. He doesn't pay for anything. He didn't pay attention to anything for 2 hours. So he sat there with me. I read the dialogue to him like it was a story, and we played through it. And I had to make a lot of decisions, like which Pokemon do you want to fight with? Who do you want to be on your team? Which one do you like? Which one should we pick? So
that's great.
So he's getting it. It's fun.
That's one of those moments. You cherish those, man. It goes really fast.
No, I know. I don't. What I don't want to do, like I love my parents. They kept me alive, but I definitely don't want to be my parents because all they did was keep me alive.
Yeah.
Like they fed me, they kept a roof over my head. And that was it. Like I got myself to school. I signed my own report cards.
Yep.
They never came to anything.
Exactly.
So that was it. Fun fact, I had an entire court case. It didn't go to court. Like it was settled out right away. Like the guy pleaded like guilty and it was done. But I was like 17 or 18. I don't know. I thought you'd have to have a child or a parent guardian, but maybe I was 18. I wouldn't. I don't know. But I got attacked by a guy with brass knuckles. I went to the hospital. The cops pressed charges. I went to court. I had witnesses, and my mom didn't find this out until I was like 37. She didn't notice I had stitches in the back of my head. She didn't notice nothing. And my sister, I'm telling my sisters the story, and they're just like, and my sisters are all older than me, so it's like I have like 4 moms because I have 3 sisters that are all older than me. And I'm telling the story at Christmas, and they're looking at my mom like, "Did you know this?" And she's like, "No." There you go. That's what you get when you don't pay attention to your son.
That sounds familiar.
So,
I got my own beat up story where I got really beat up. I got jumped, and my parents didn't realize anything. And the only reason I got away with it was because I had gone to school the next day. And when I came home, they go, "You got jumped at school?"
My mom watches the show, so Mom, you're great.
My mom's old school European. She barely understands what I even do. Like I make video games.
Yeah, my mom barely understands this, and I have to explain it like it's all part of the muñequitos, which feels like I'm dumbing everything.
Oh, she doesn't understand it. She'll like leave it playing in the background while she does whatever else. But I'm sure if I say one word about her, it'll be like, Spider Sense is going on what? So.
All right, folks. I see we're at the 1:30 mark, which means we've been geeking out all this time. Catherine and Devin, why don't you tell the people one more time where they can find you, give them all the good stuff so they can go and support you and find where you guys are.
Yeah, Estate Raise the Realm. We are on Kickstarter. You can search for us there. Also find us on Instagram under Estate Raise the Realm. We'll be running our campaign, I think, for another 24 days. And medieval worker placement. We're calling it a gateway hero, but really it's probably like one step past the gate.
Gateway to medium weight games.
Yeah. I do have another question. I just realized this because it really feels like it's it may be a board game, but it almost feels like it comes across D&D a little bit. Are people role playing in this?
I mean, you totally could, but from a play perspective, I'd put it closer to like maybe Civilization.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like each character, like leader you play, does have a backstory, and we have this vision of like multiple games in this world where those same characters exist. But in this game, like it's more like board game. Like sometimes people get into like, acting out like, oh, I'm playing an assassin, I'm gonna assassinate this other citizen, like so they like narrate that a little bit, but it's not really like D&D-esque or tabletop role-playing games.
I think you keep saying that, but I keep looking at this going, there's gonna be role players.
I mean, we definitely have games where people are kind of like having fun playing different characters.
Because like I told you before, I've always wanted to do this clue party where everybody comes in and they're one of the characters in it, and you got to figure out who done it.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that.
All right, folks. Tyler, tell the people all the good stuff, where they can find you. Go for it.
You can pretty much find me from my website, which is just www.tylerham.com. All my socials, Instagram, Yeah, I guess even my LinkedIn now, YouTube, TikTok, Substack's all Tyler J Ham. At Tyler
folks.
J Ham.
And if you want to learn a little bit more about writing or get your writing stuff in there, go check out Tyler's page.
Yeah, I think this is just tylerham.com/books.
Because I always feel like everybody needs a little bit of help when it comes to writing or any of the arts. Everybody. And there's a lot of people out there explaining things. All right, Philip, go for it.
If you want to get a copy of Future Tales, jump on to Amazon. I think it's overnight delivery. We made it relatively cheap for a graphic novel. I think it's $20 US. It always seems to be on sale, so that's always good. $20. You get that little gold foil that we like. But yeah, that's pretty much the place to go if you want to get a copy. That being said, if you want to go on to wildnorthcomics.com/Future Tales, you just chuck your email in there and you get like the first 20 pages for free. So you can just check it out there if you like, if you're a little bit short on money. So either Amazon or the website.
Phil, are you getting ready for another Kickstarter or are you just letting this sit for a bit?
We're going to probably let it sit because as a collective, we're doing other comics. Like there was one called Dead City Lullabies, which also did really well after us, a different artist, different creator. So we are still doing some Kickstarters, but as for Future Tales or my own stuff, there is a few things in the works. I've just got, I'm just busy writing TV and film at the moment, but maybe at the start of New Year, we might be able to get something out there.
There you have it, folks. Go check them out. This stuff looks like fun. You like your fairy tales, futuristically styled, or just fairy tales in general. This is right up your alley, folks. And Mr. Mark, go for it.
All right. So yeah, So-Called Living is going to be running until it stops on Halloween, but I think it's 9 a.m. So get it before then. So yeah, it'll be running all of October. Pick it up. Dark comedy. I think it's great. It's got a projects we love. That's something, right?
Exactly.
That's pretty much it right now. Kickstarter is the only way to really get it. And if you want to check out issue 1 for free, go to Global Comics, and actually you can purchase issue 2 there too. I just put that up there. I'm not exactly sure if I'm even using Global Comics right. I think you can buy it. I set a price on it. It's there. But yeah, issue 1's free, so you can just go read it and check it out. And if you like it, then you can still jump in here and get yourself some physical copies, or you can just get the digital copies of 2 and 3 or 3 and 4 here. But I don't believe you'll be disappointed. I think you'll like it. So yeah, it
looks good. Love hearing you talk about it because now I have all this information. Our friend Shadow Rabbit loves the bunnies. He is the Shadow Rabbit though. And I gotta say that the bunnies have me intrigued enough for me to dive in there and go, all right, I'll bite.
Yeah, you don't get in the beginning issue 1. I think there's 1 panel, maybe 2 panels that mention bunnies, and then every book you'll get a little bit more story in the bunnies, but it's never really told directly. It's always it's on the news station or it's something happening, and there's one interaction with them that happens right up front in book 2. Oh, yeah, book 2. So, but I'll let you discover that on your own.
If you have it, but that's the way to do it, though. You interweave. I love when people interweave stuff. It kind of reminds me of the old days when the cartoon will be, this is the episode. Something's happening in the background, but this is the episode. Instead of we have this story that's going on through all the. I'm like, come on, can I just watch one cartoon?
Remember comics would do that? There'd be just 2 panels of this guy with a cloak, and then you forget about him for the main story. Then every now and then you check up on him, and then next thing you know, a big story with that guy that was mad. That was always cool when you weave stuff like that in there. It's always cool.
I've always described the bunnies from Jack's point of view. The bunnies are always, it's somebody else's problem. It's like a tornado or flooding. It's here, there's no tornadoes or flooding here, but you hear it on the news and that's terrible. But it's not really my issue. So that's how it is with the bunnies. Wow, that's bad news, but there's nothing here, so I'm okay. And that's how it starts for him.
I'm just gonna say this, and so to warn you guys out there, Napoleon lost his war with the bunnies. What? And somebody is out there going, what the hell is he talking about? Go research it. Go ahead.
I think you have everybody in here asking the same question.
Oh, so you guys don't know either?
No.
So Napoleon ended up fighting a war with bunnies, and he lost that war with the bunnies.
Wow.
Yeah, go check it out. It'll be a nice little rabbit hole. I'm a dad. What do you want? Yeah. I'll put it this way, guys. If you guys figure this out and you guys come to the Bit and Apple page and you explain it to me, I might do a contest and throw a bunch of people into the wheel and give you something. Fairy tale wise, yeah. Actually, I got something from a creator this weekend that fits this perfectly. So do that. Put it in there. We'll roll the wheel and let's see what happens. All right, folks. It has been a pleasure having you on. And of course, folks, I know what you guys are gonna say. I'm lazy. I don't want to go look for all these links. Aha! I put all those links in the comment section, so you don't have to be like, I'm lazy. Just press the link. You can support all these people right now and not be lazy at the same time. Okay.
Ooh, really quick. So I've been doing quite a few reviews in the last few days. So I did a review for Gundam Requiem for Vengeance. It's a long review because every time it's a long review because I love Gundam. You can see there's mech up there. And there's many reviews. Uzumaki, Rick and Morty, Cobra Kai. There's like little mini reviews of just what I thought of them. So we'll check those out. And my pictures from Comic-Con are there on Facebook. Also on Instagram, I figured out you can put more than 4 pictures on Instagram. For some reason, I was thinking it was like X. We can only do 4 pictures. So so some of my pictures are on Instagram also. So check those out.
I gotta say something. If you don't know, you don't know.
Channel _from_SRK and just follow Bit and Apple. I guess you'll get to me. But yeah. So that's
it's all there at the Bit and Apple, folks.
Right,
go check it out. Tony's a great writer. You got to check out his reviews and all the stuff.
All right.
He's funny. That's what I like about him. He's funny. That's why I got him on the Bit and Apple because I like reading his stuff.
Sure. Okay.
And I guess my last thing here, folks, is that we were at New York Comic Con and we were trying to gather people. Look, we're at 71, one of my lucky numbers. This is going to be the first time that you see a published work for me, written with Ralph, because I hate publishing. It's a whole other job that I don't feel like I want to do. And the guys from We Suck at Comics have taken that and taken it out of my hands. So there you go. I'm going to be lazy. They're going to publish it. This whole thing will start in a couple of weeks. And let's get them to 100. Because if we get them to 100, it puts them in a good place on the algorithm. So go check it out. We Suck at Comics. And we got a bunch of videos on Instagram saying or showing how we suck at comics.
Congrats, Ralph, man. Congrats, man, on that. It's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that is the end. Unless anybody else has anything to add. Cool. Mr. Nat's not here, so I don't know if I forgot something. I'm tired. I feel like I'm still at New York Comic Con.
You've been working for what, 8 straight days, man. Go take a nap.
Yeah, so technically speaking, Tony's right. We did the show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We were in New York Comic Con Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now I did a show on Monday. So you know what, folks? I'm going to
Impressive.
You guys have a great night. Here we go.
All right.
Yeah.
for the bunch of you that just showed up at the end of the show, go watch